Have you ever wondered why your life felt harder than everyone else's? Why the storms never seemed to stop? Why the battles kept coming even when you were praying, believing, and trying to stay faithful? Maybe you thought God had forgotten you. Maybe you thought you failed somewhere. Maybe you looked around and wondered why others were moving forward while you were fighting battles nobody could see. But what if I told you something that could change the way you see your entire life? What if the struggles you survived were not punishments, but tests? What if the nights you cried alone, the betrayals you endured, the doors that slammed shut, the seasons where nothing made sense, were actually God's hardest test? And here is the truth that most people never realize. You passed it. Not loudly, not with applause, not with recognition from the world, but quietly, faithfully, painfully you passed. God watched when nobody else did. He saw you choose faith when doubt was easier. He saw you stay kind when people were cruel. He saw you keep praying when heaven felt silent. And today I need you to hear something with your whole spirit. You are not random. You are not overlooked. You are not forgotten. You are chosen. And the reason your journey has been different, the reason your road has been harder, is because God was preparing you for something most people are not strong enough to carry. When heaven chooses someone, it doesn't start with blessings. It starts with tests, and you passed. Before we go deeper into this message, here are the 3 powerful truths every chosen person must understand. First, God tests the strongest spirits before revealing their calling. Second, the battles you survived were shaping your spiritual authority. Third, after the hardest tests always comes divine elevation. Now let us step into the first truth. God tests the strongest spirits before revealing their calling. There is something many people misunderstand about God's plan. They think being chosen means life will be easy. They imagine that if God loves them, the road should be smooth, predictable, and comfortable. But throughout the entire Bible, we see the opposite pattern. The people God chose who went through the hardest trials. Before Joseph ruled Egypt, he was betrayed by his brothers, thrown into a pit, sold into slavery, falsely accused, and locked in prison. Before David became king, he was hunted, rejected, and forced to live like a fugitive. Before Moses led a nation, he wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. And before Jesus stepped into his purpose, he faced temptation, rejection, betrayal, and suffering. Do you see the pattern? Calling always comes after testing. Authority always comes after preparation. Purpose always comes after pressure. The reason is simple. God does not release powerful assignments to untested spirits. He tests them first. And many times, the person being tested does not even realize what is happening. You might have thought your struggles were random, but heaven was watching closely. Every time someone hurt you and you chose forgiveness instead of revenge, heaven recorded that moment. Every time life became heavy and you still kept your faith, heaven recorded that moment. Every time you wanted to give up, but somehow found the strength to keep going, heaven recorded that moment. You may not have realized it, but you were being evaluated, not by the world, by God, because God is not just looking for talent, He is looking for character. He is not just looking for ability, He is looking for endurance. Many people want the crown, but they cannot carry the cross. Many people want influence, but they cannot survive pressure. Many people want recognition, but they cannot handle rejection. But you endured things that should have broken you. You survived seasons where you had no answers. You walked through storms that nobody around you even noticed. And somehow you kept going. That is not weakness. That is spiritual strength. That is exactly the kind of spirit God looks for. Because the truth is, God often hides his strongest warriors inside the most painful seasons. Those seasons are not meant to destroy you. They are meant to reveal you. Pressure reveals strength. Storms reveal faith. Trials reveal character. And God needed to see if you would remain faithful even when nothing around you made sense. This is what many people call the hidden season. It is the season where you feel unseen, where you feel overlooked, where it feels like life is moving for everyone else, but standing still for you. But that hidden season is actually one of the most sacred parts of your journey, because it is where God builds you without distractions. It is where he shapes your heart. It is where he removes pride, ego, and dependence on people. It is where he teaches you to depend on him alone. When people are applauding you, it is easy to stay faithful. But when nobody notices your struggle, that is where real faith is tested. And you passed that test. You passed it when you kept praying even when nothing changed. You passed it when you stayed humble even after being disrespected. You passed it when you kept loving even after being betrayed. You passed it when you refused to become bitter. Many people fail in those moments, but you didn't. You might have bent. You might have cried. You might have questioned everything, but you didn't quit, and God saw that. What you thought was just survival, was actually preparation, because the truth is this: God cannot elevate someone who breaks under pressure. He cannot trust someone with purpose if they abandon faith during hardship. So before the blessing arrives, before the doors open, before the world recognizes what God placed inside you, he allows the test. And here is the powerful part. Most chosen people pass their hardest test without even knowing it was happening. They think they are just trying to make it through another day. They think they are just surviving. But heaven sees something much deeper. Heaven sees resilience. Heaven sees loyalty. Heaven sees faith. And that is why your story is different. That is why your life didn't follow the easy path. That is why you faced battles that others could not understand. Because God was not preparing you for an ordinary life. He was preparing you for an extraordinary assignment. And preparation for greatness is never comfortable. Diamonds are created under pressure. Steel is forged in fire. Faith is strengthened in storms. And your life has had all three: the pressure, the fire, the storms. But you are still here, still standing, still believing. And that alone is proof that something powerful is being built inside you. The tests you endured were not meant to stop you. They were meant to qualify you. And the fact that you survived them means something important. You were never meant to be average. You were meant to be chosen. You survived seasons that should have crushed your spirit. You walked through valleys where it felt like God was silent, where prayers seemed to echo back unanswered, and where people you trusted turned their backs on you. There were moments when you questioned your own strength. Moments when you wondered if the struggle meant you were doing something wrong. But what you didn't realize is that every battle you survived was shaping something far greater than the situation you were facing. Every trial was forging a deeper level of spiritual authority inside of you. The battles you survived were not random storms. They were spiritual training ground to the palace. David had to face lions, bears, and the rage of a jealous king before he ever wore a crown. Job lost everything before his faith was revealed to the world. These individuals were not simply surviving their circumstances. They were being transformed by them. When you faced betrayal, something inside you changed. When someone you trusted hurt you, it forced you to grow in discernment. It forced you to look deeper than appearances. That pain sharpened your ability to understand people, motives, and truth. It hurt in the moment, but it gave you a level of wisdom that cannot be learned in comfort. When you went through rejection, it also shaped your authority. Rejection has a way of stripping away our dependence on human approval. Many people build their identity on how others see them, but when rejection comes, it forces you to rebuild your identity on something stronger. It pushes you toward God. It forces you to discover who you are in His eyes rather than in the opinions of others. That process is painful, but it creates an unshakable foundation. Authority grows when you stop needing the world's validation. The storms you survived also taught you resilience. There were days when you felt like giving up, days when everything seemed to collapse at once. Financial stress, emotional pain, broken relationships, uncertainty about the future, it felt overwhelming. But even in those moments, you kept going, maybe slowly, maybe quietly, but you didn't completely surrender to despair. Resilience is one of the most powerful spiritual qualities a person can develop. The enemy often assumes that if enough pressure is applied, a person will break. But every time you endured another storm, you proved something powerful. You proved that your faith was not built on comfort. It was built on something deeper. Every time you survived another battle, your spiritual authority grew stronger. Authority is not just about speaking. It is about experience. A person who has never walked through darkness cannot truly guide someone else through it. But someone who has survived pain carries credibility. When you speak hope to someone who is struggling, your words carry weight because you understand what struggle feels like. The wounds you healed from became part of your authority. You learned empathy through suffering. When someone comes to you hurting, you don't dismiss their pain. You understand it. You know how heavy life can feel. That understanding allows you to bring compassion instead of judgment. Compassion is a powerful force because it reflects the heart of God. The enemy believed that those wounds would destroy you, but God used them to expand your capacity to help others. Even the seasons where you felt lost had a purpose. Sometimes God allows confusion because it forces you to seek Him more deeply. When the path is unclear, you begin to pray more honestly. You begin to listen more carefully. You begin to grow spiritually in ways that comfort never produces. Your dependence on God deepened during those moments. The truth is that spiritual authority is not something people see on the surface. It is something built internally over time. It grows through humility, through perseverance, through surrender, through learning to trust God when nothing makes sense. Many people want influence, but they are not willing to endure the process that produces it. They want recognition without refinement. They want blessings without preparation. But the people God chooses to carry significant purpose go through seasons that feel like isolation, hardship, and testing. Those seasons were shaping you. When life stripped things away from you, it was also removing distractions. It was teaching you what truly matters. Sometimes God removes people, opportunities, or comforts because they would interfere with the purpose He is preparing you for. What felt like loss was sometimes protection. When doors closed in your life, it may have felt like rejection. But some of those closed doors were actually divine redirections. They prevented you from stepping into situations that would have limited your growth or delayed your calling. God was guiding your path even when you couldn't see it. And the battles that pushed you to your limits were also revealing your strength. Many people underestimate the power that lives inside them until they face adversity. You probably discovered abilities, courage, and endurance you never knew you had. Pain has a way of revealing hidden strength. The very experiences you once questioned may now be the foundation of your future purpose. The struggles you endured gave you insight. The lessons you learned gave you wisdom. The resilience you developed gave you stability. All of these qualities are part of spiritual authority. Authority is not about controlling others. It is about carrying responsibility with maturity. It is about guiding, encouraging, and influencing people with integrity. God develops that kind of authority slowly through real-life experiences that shape the heart. Your battles were not meaningless. Every hardship carved something valuable into your character. Every disappointment strengthened your faith. Every obstacle forced you to grow in ways you never expected. What you thought were random struggles were actually strategic preparation. You were being trained to handle greater responsibility. You were being prepared to influence lives. You were learning how to remain steady in chaos so that others could find stability through your presence. The strength you gained through those battles cannot be taken away from you. It lives inside your spirit now. That is why you are able to stand today with deeper wisdom, stronger faith, and greater compassion than before. You have seen darkness and still chosen light. You have experienced loss and still chosen hope. That choice is what makes your authority real. The storms you endured were not the end of your story. They were the chapters that built the foundation for everything that is coming next. And the truth is, God never wastes pain. The battles you survived are proof that you were being shaped for something greater than you imagined. The authority growing inside you is not just for your own life. It will eventually become a source of strength for others who are still walking through their storms. The tests you passed prepared you to carry light into places where hope feels impossible. And when the next season of your life unfolds, you will begin to see how every struggle was building the person you were meant to become. The moment people hear the word elevation, they usually imagine instant success, sudden blessings, and a life where everything finally becomes easy. But divine elevation does not look like the world's version of success. When God elevates someone, it is not simply about giving them more. It is about placing them exactly where their purpose can influence the most lives. And elevation never happens before preparation. The truth many people overlook is that the hardest tests always come right before the greatest shift. When God is about to move someone into a new season, the pressure often increases. The challenges feel heavier. The battles seem more intense. It can feel confusing because instead of things getting easier, everything suddenly feels harder. But that pressure is often the final stage of preparation. Think about how gold is refined. It is placed into intense heat so that every impurity can rise to the surface and be removed. The fire is not there to destroy the gold. It is there to purify it. In the same way, many of the difficulties you experienced were removing things that could not go with you into your next season. Some relationships could not follow you into your purpose. Some habits needed to be broken. Some fears needed to be confronted. Some doubts needed to be replaced with deeper faith. That refining process can feel painful. But when God finishes that work, something remarkable happens. Elevation begins. Elevation is not always loud. Sometimes it starts quietly. It begins with a new level of clarity inside your mind. You begin to see situations differently. You begin to recognize your value. You begin to understand that your story carries meaning beyond what you once believed. This shift often happens internally before it appears externally. Your perspective changes. The things that once intimidated you begin to lose their power. The opinions of people who once controlled your emotions begin to matter less. The fears that once held you back start to fade because you now understand something powerful. You survived what you thought you could never survive. Once a person realizes that truth, something inside them becomes fearless. You begin to move through life differently, not with arrogance, but with quiet confidence. You know that whatever comes next, you already carry the strength to face it. This inner transformation is the first sign that elevation has begun. Another sign of divine elevation is the opening of opportunities that once seemed impossible. Doors that were closed suddenly begin to open. Conversations begin to happen with people who recognize something valuable in you. New paths begin to appear where there was once only confusion. It may not happen overnight, but momentum begins to shift. Sometimes elevation also comes in the form of influence. You may notice that people begin to seek your advice. They trust your perspective. They feel comfort in your presence. They see strength in you that they want to learn from. That influence is not random. It comes from the authority built during your hardest seasons. People can sense authenticity. They can recognize when someone speaks from real experience rather than empty words. Because you have walked through struggle, your voice carries weight. The lessons you learned are now becoming tools to help others. Elevation also changes the way you handle challenges. Problems that once overwhelmed you now become situations you can navigate with wisdom. Instead of reacting emotionally, you respond thoughtfully. Instead of feeling defeated, you look for solutions. Growth creates stability. That stability is one of the reasons God allows such intense testing. A person who has never faced hardship often collapses under pressure, but someone who has already endured storms develops the ability to remain calm when new challenges appear. Your past prepared you for that strength. Another part of elevation is understanding your purpose more clearly. The experiences you once questioned start to make sense. You begin to see how every difficult chapter contributed to the person you have become. Nothing was wasted. The rejection you faced taught you independence. The failures you experienced taught you humility. The losses you endured taught you gratitude. The struggles you survived taught you resilience. All of those lessons combined to shape your purpose. And purpose is far more powerful than comfort. When someone discovers their purpose, their life begins to carry direction. They stop wandering through circumstances and start moving intentionally toward something meaningful. That sense of direction is one of the greatest gifts of elevation. But there is also something important to understand about this new season. Elevation does not mean the absence of challenges. Even after rising into their calling, the people in Scripture still faced opposition. What changes is not the existence of challenges, but the strength you carry to face them. Before, the storms felt like they were breaking you. Now, the storms reveal your strength. You understand that difficulties are part of growth. Instead of seeing them as proof that something is wrong, you recognize them as opportunities to become even stronger. This mindset creates an entirely different experience of life. Instead of constantly fearing the next problem, you begin to trust your ability to overcome it. And that trust grows from the evidence of your past. You have already survived seasons that once seemed impossible. You have already endured nights where hope felt distant. You have already faced moments where giving up felt easier than continuing. But you continued, and that history becomes your foundation. The world may see your current strength and assume it appeared suddenly. They may not understand the years of struggle, prayer, and endurance that built it. They may only see the results without recognizing the process. But you know the truth. You know what it took to become who you are today. You know the tears that were shed in private moments. You know the battles fought silently within your heart. You know the decisions you made to keep believing even when doubt tried to consume you. Those hidden victories are part of your elevation. Because elevation in God's plan is not simply about reaching a higher position. It is about becoming a stronger person. And that transformation makes your life powerful. You become someone who can inspire hope in others. Someone who can stand strong when others feel weak. Someone who can guide people through darkness because you understand the path. Your story becomes a source of light. The tests you unknowingly passed were preparing you for this moment. They were building a foundation that could support the weight of purpose. And now that foundation is ready. The season ahead will reveal opportunities, growth, and impact that once seemed far away. It may unfold gradually, step by step, but each step will bring you closer to the life you were meant to live. The storms are not the end of your story. They were the beginning of your transformation. And the strength you carry today is proof that you were always meant to rise. You were not just surviving, you were becoming. The journey of a chosen person is rarely easy. It is filled with seasons that feel confusing, painful, and lonely. But those seasons are not signs that God has abandoned you. They are often the very evidence that He is shaping you for something greater. You passed tests you didn't even realize you were facing. You endured trials that strengthened your spirit. You grew through experiences that revealed your resilience and faith. Every struggle you survived became part of your preparation. And now you stand stronger, wiser, and more capable than before. The storms that once threatened to break you have instead revealed your strength. The hardships that once felt meaningless now carry lessons that shape your purpose. Your journey was never random. You were being prepared. And the fact that you are still standing today is proof that the tests did not defeat you, they refined you. You were chosen not because life would be easy, but because you had the strength to endure the process that leads to purpose. And now the path ahead holds the promise of impact, growth, and a life that reflects the power of faith that never gave up.